everyone. Welcome to the Gig Podcast. I'm your host, Mandy McCrane, and I have with me my guest, Samantha Zack. Samantha, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I just think that this is such a cool thing that you're doing. I found out about your podcast and kind of what God's put on your heart through Kelsey. And I just recently met Kelsey because she published a book and I'm in the process of publishing a book. So it's just really cool, like just how God like puts the right people in the right place at the right time, you know? So
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm just excited to be here and there's a lot to my story and a lot to my past. So rather than take up that time introducing myself, I figure I'll just let you ask the questions.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, you and I both were at Kelsey's book signing in Southern California, which was
Yeah,
amazing.
so cool.
And it's so cool how those 6 degrees of separation, and then you meet people.
Yeah.
So, and I enjoyed talking to you the little bit that we have, and I'm excited to share your story. So now you kind of were on like kind of the same path, like with drugs and alcohol. Is that yes?
Um, Not exactly.
No?
I
Okay.
was definitely I was more like worshiping at the altar of money.
Okay.
Definitely struggled with a lot of pride, a lot of ego. And it was just a deficit because of how I felt about myself. Like I had no self-worth, super insecure, like no confidence whatsoever. Even though that wasn't what I projected, like I definitely projected a different image, but like there are things that like you're willing to do. When you like don't think very highly of yourself. So like I was in some not super great relationships. Um, and I was just yeah, like I didn't really do any hard drugs or anything, but like I did drink a lot. I did like to party, and I basically worked hard, partied harder, and
Yeah.
that's not sustainable. Uh,
No, no.
Again, it's not a recipe for like it's just not a recipe for a godly woman, but I didn't think that was who I wanted to be. I looked down on people that believed in God or were of the Christian faith. I don't really know where that started. I think it was something um, that I kind of picked up from my biological parents. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I felt that way, but yeah, that
Yeah.
was that was where I was before God found me.
Okay. And then we had talked about you ended up going to the church that Kelsey ultimately went to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but you were there for a different reason. What was the
Yeah.
reason?
So again, I was just trying to build my own business. It was actually a networking event. It was the first networking event that they had ever hosted. I don't know if they've done one since, but it was in 2022, and I honestly wasn't even gonna go. Um, but someone was like, "Hey, I'm gonna see you there, right?" And I was like, "Okay, well, I might as well." Um, so I drove out there and it was a crazy experience because there was like a panel and we were talking about like faith in business. And at the time, like I had never really seen faith modeled before. I had only seen religion expressed in people's lives, so there was never really anything that I saw that set them apart. um, until I saw people that actually had faith and how that came through, not just in their business, but in their parenting and their relationships, just in their heart in general. And I looked at it as like tactical, like I was very much an opportunist. I kind of had to fend for myself from an early age,
Yeah.
so it's all about like, um, how can I protect myself? Like, how can I provide for myself? Those kinds of things. So I looked at faith as like an asset. I really still wasn't interested in a relationship with God. I just saw how it manifested in the lives of women that I looked up to, and I was like, okay, like let's see what this faith thing is about, So,
Kind of
um,
like transactional, like a transactional relationship.
yeah, absolutely. So I went to this faith in business event, and yes, there was a Q&A, but there was also worship. Um and that wrecked me. And I didn't
As
even
it
really,
does.
you know, um but afterwards, the pastor for that campus got up on stage and was just talking about like what a good thing we had like in the community that we had with each other.
Yeah.
Because this was 2022, like we were still kind of in the trenches of COVID and everyone was feeling isolated and all of those things, and he spoke to that specifically in the youth population. And as soon as he shared that, like a light bulb went off on my head because in 2021, my cousin committed suicide.
Oh,
So, yeah, so, and I have survivor's guilt because there was a time in my life where I tried to take my life as well. Um,
yeah, you were
and
telling me about that.
yeah, when she passed away, I was like, I went through the stages of grief, but I really hung on to that anger. And I was so upset that like no one really seemed to be doing anything about it.
Yeah.
Um, I had been reaching out to like nonprofits. I had reached out to teachers where I went to school. I was like, look, like I don't even know what I'm doing, but like, this is like upsetting. This is something that's not going away. This is, just like the mental condition of every generation. It just seems like it's on the decline. Like I want to do something.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like, oh, like I'm sorry, I'm sorry about your cousin. And then like the conversation would stop, and it was just like, so for Pastor Moy to get up and like speak to that, I was just like, oh, finally somebody that gets it.
Yeah.
It was like crazy that the church was the first place that someone seemed to care and take it seriously, but I think that's what the church is supposed to be,
Yeah.
when it's healthy, that's what it
When
looks
it's
like.
healthy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people don't have that experience, which is really
No.
sad. And so it's not the church, it's they need to find a different church.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the God's God's design and his heart for the church is a really good thing, but unfortunately the church is made up of people and
Yeah.
people get things wrong sometimes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um, so yeah, I went up to him after he finished speaking and after the event was over and I was like, look, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not churched, but like I have a heart for this and if you'll have me, like I really want to get involved. So that was how it started.
Yeah. Yeah. And now your background, so with business and stuff like that, now were you involved with any other things that were like definitely leading you away from the church or away from your faith, or was it just holding on to, not wanting to be a part of it, be a part of the faith community?
I mean, I did eventually kind of grow out of like the partying thing, but then I just like doubled down on work. So I was working 12-hour days, 5, sometimes 6 days a week, commuting at least an hour each way.
Yeah.
And then trying to build my own business in the meantime. So I was getting like, 3 hours of sleep because I would get home and I would eat dinner and visit with my husband for like 30 minutes and then be like, okay, on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So I think something that I'm starting to see more conversations around, or maybe the conversations have always been there and I'm just more aware of it now, is that the enemy doesn't have to destroy you if he can
Mm-mm.
distract you, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
So I would say in terms of things leading me away from God, it was 100% like all the things that the world praises, you
Yeah.
know? Um,
And I think that's huge. I think that, sorry to interrupt.
no, it's okay.
I think that we talk so much about like addictions and stuff like that, and we talk about the drugs and the alcohol, but we don't talk about the money,
Yeah.
that food, things like that. Like there's like an obsession in our society with these different things, and it's not always the two top, things,
Yeah.
drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
It's that, and I got caught up in that too. So I'm hearing my story with you talking as well as just working, working, working. And mine was, survival, raising four kids, but it was like that. I need more. I need to make sure that I have this or have that. And sounds like you were kind of doing the same thing. It's like that idol. It becomes an idol.
For yeah, anything can be an idol. And
Yeah.
again, like I saw myself as my provider, which we know is not true now.
Yeah.
But at the time, I didn't know anything about that. And that was exactly where I found myself because I was making more money than I had ever made. I didn't have a house, but like my boyfriend at the time, now my husband, we had a condo, so we owned property in like a pretty decent city in Orange County.
Yeah.
Uh, I was physically like in the best shape of my life. And, so it's like, okay, check, check, check. Like I was so, the addiction, like the way that addiction expresses itself in my life is performance, right?
Okay.
I was
Yeah.
performing at such a high level, at what I thought was such a high level, according to the world's standards. And I was so empty. And not only that, but like maybe like physically I weighed less, but like spiritually it's the heaviest I've ever felt. And it was crushing. Like it was truly crushing. And that was like that weight like literally brought me to my knees and like crying out to God. And I was like, okay, if you're real, like here's your chance to show up because I can't keep doing this. So
Yeah. And I like how you said, you went to they did worship and it wrecked you.
yeah,
And I think that's the most beautiful thing. And I pray that worship never stops wrecking us
yeah.
ever. It's so amazing. That's really cool. So after that, so you went to the faith and business, and then you went to church. You talked to Pastor Moy, and then what happened after that?
So, we had just moved from Orange County, to the Inland Empire, and I was still very like plugged in and like had strong ties to people in Orange County. That church is in Anaheim. So I was super comfortable with that area. I knew it better because I had lived there for so long.
Yeah.
And I didn't think anything of like driving out there. It wasn't a big deal to me. I was just like so committed to like actually doing something. That was kind of where my focus was. And then I met the youth lead for that campus. I went back out on a Wednesday and we kind of did the trial run, and he was like, okay, so like, what do you think? I was like, I meant it when I said it, like, I'm in. And he was like, well, we'd love to have you, but did you know there's a campus closer to you? And the truth was I didn't. And even when they told me where it was, I still passed it because they didn't even have their own building. It was in the senior center in Menifee, and they would like literally set up Sunday morning, tear down Sunday afternoon to like have church, and then same thing on Wednesdays. And um, so I told him, I was like, honestly, I didn't know that. He was like, and the funny thing, how God works, is that he had just become the youth lead at the Anaheim campus, but he had left the Menifee campus.
Oh,
So
yeah.
he already knew everything about the campus that he was asking me to consider. And he did that thing that Christians do. He's like, okay, well, like just pray about it. And I'm like still like I've given my life to Christ at this point. But I'm still like, okay, now what? Like I'm
Yeah.
like Bible curious. I'm not sure I'm super bought in yet. And
And
calm
like at
down.
that point, they're like, pray about it. But you're like so new in Christianity. You're like,
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
even know what
like,
it sounds like.
cool story, bro. Like, thanks.
Right?
What did I do? I went off of everything that I knew, which is like only stuff I've seen in the movies or read in books. So I just like flip open my Bible to like a random page. I start reading. Ironically, I was in Corinthians. when Paul is talking to the church about how to like cope with and how to accept Gentiles as they come to faith.
Yeah.
And there's a verse in there, it's something about, like if this is where you're at when you come to faith, like continue living in that way more or less, not to say like we're not supposed to, become sanctified or anything like that, but I just took that as like start where you are, I think that was probably one of the first times I heard like the Holy Spirit, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm not in Orange County anymore. I'm in Menifee. So looks like I'm starting here. And like the crazy thing, and I already confessed, right? Pride is definitely a thing for me. Here I am, like thinking so little and like not a fan of the church. And so I go to that campus for the first time and I walk in and I'm like, these people are tripping. Like, this is not a church. They can call it whatever they want, but this is a cafeteria with chairs, uh, and a stage, But I talked to the campus pastor there and kind of shared, hey guys, shh, sorry, my dogs. Hey,
That's
hey.
all right.
They can get loud, so I'm like, I better stop it now. Hey, hey, stop. Um, bro, literally, stop. Um,
It's life. This is real life.
yeah, I know. Well, I have two healers, so they are a whole lot to deal with.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I talked to the campus pastor there and just kind of shared a little bit about, you know, my past and like mental health like has a place in his heart too, he's been impacted by like suicidal ideation and, people that have struggled with it. So we
Mm.
instantly connected, and so yeah, I was like, okay, I'm in, like I'll be here on Wednesday. And I just started serving.
Yeah. Wow. And so what's your capacity in the church now? And are you still in Menifee or did you guys get, obviously you guys got a building now?
Yes, praise God. We got a building.
Good.
And I'm so thankful for that because like for youth it wasn't that big of a deal, like we would set up some games outside, and just show up maybe like an hour, like 30 minutes to an hour early on Wednesdays to set everything up. It wasn't that big of a deal. The way that like the setup tear down really started to impact me was when I started serving on the production team. So after I don't know how long it was, I would say probably at least a month of serving in youth. I realized like this campus is not that big. They're gonna notice that I'm not here on Sundays, but I'm here on Wednesdays, and I don't want to have a conversation with that. So I grabbed one of my friends. I was like, "Listen, like you're gonna go to church with me because I'm not gonna do this by myself. These people are, church people are weird." She
I've
went.
done that. I don't want to go
uh,
alone.
Yeah, which is so ironic because like I'll do anything alone, but I wasn't gonna do that. So, um, I yeah, I went with her on a Sunday and we were sitting there waiting for service to start and someone from the production team was going around and just introducing himself to people and was like, "Hey, um, you know, I'm so and so. I'm on the production team. We're actually looking for volunteers, so I don't know if you or anyone you know is interested, but we would love to have you." And I was just kind of like, "Oh no, like you don't understand. Like, I have a purpose. I have a calling. I'm here for youth. Like that is not my thing. Like, also, I don't know anybody, so you're striking out twice. Like, just like ask the next person." And I could not tell you for the life of me what that sermon was about because the entire time I just heard God asking me, like, are you here for you or are you here for me? And so I learned that that's
Right in the
conviction.
heart.
Yeah, yeah, it's conviction.
Oh
So
yeah.
after the service, I went to the back and talked to the production team, and I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. I gave them the same spiel, like I'm not church, like I don't know what I'm doing, but I heard you need help, you know, and if you'll have me, then I'll try it. And it's just so wild to me because like I didn't even know production was the thing. I thought someone just like hit play in the back and like the whole service happened, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but that's not the case. And I
No.
promise anyone watching this, there's a good chance your production team is looking for volunteers. So you should go talk to them. But
Facts.
it was, you know, again, God knows what he was doing because I like one of my best friends now is the production lead of the team when I first started volunteering. And you know, she was super patient with me and we spent a lot of time together. And we had, you know, just by nature of like you're back there for however many services your church has. And I just kind of felt like the way God works is so crazy because he doesn't need as much time as we think he needs to accomplish certain things or to develop us in certain ways. And I think truly like my spiritual growth has come from one, he put me in the back, he put me in the dark, right? No one knows production, at least if you do your job well, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Like the the biggest compliment you'll ever get is like, oh, I didn't even realize like you guys were there, you know, because everything runs super smoothly. And that humbled me because I have always, you know, sought the stage. I've always sought the mic. I've always sought the spotlight, for myself, you know. So I think, surprise, God knew what he was doing because, he knew how to work those things out of me, but then he also knew like how to put me in a place where other people could pour into me. Um, And again, you listen to the same message two or three times, like you can't help but get something from it, you know? So he took someone that had like no experience whatsoever, um, like was so ignorant and fast forward. So this was 2022 when I started serving. I actually came on staff as a production lead for the same campus after we got our building to launch a new service in 2024.
Yeah.
And here we are, it's 2026. I've been on staff for 2 years. You know,
Wow.
like
That's so cool.
not that that's like a goal or not that that's something that proves anything, you know. But for someone that was like a new believer to have developed enough spiritually to have that kind of like trust placed in me, um, you know, only God could do that. And I think he used production to do that.
Absolutely. And it's such a great analogy that, like seeds only grow when they're planted in the dark.
Yeah. Yeah.
And God had to put you there. He'd knock you off your pedestal and put you where
That
you weren't noticed.
is like this is dude, I'm telling you, this is because you know people tell me like, oh, like you're humble, and I'm like, you don't know what's going on in my head, first of all. Like
Yeah, right.
you get the outside thoughts, not the inside thoughts. But even when I first started, you know, like I literally had no clue what even like half the equipment was. And but I was so arrogant. I was like, I could do this better than the people that are here. But I had no clue what I was doing. Like I literally, like that's
Yeah,
how, like that's, like that was my character, you know? So it's just crazy.
that's funny. Yeah, God knew what you needed,
Yeah, for
even
sure.
even when it's painful. Holy
Yeah,
cow. Yeah,
yeah,
it's very humbling.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, tell me about your book. So do you have a title for it yet?
Yeah, so trigger warning. It's called The Suicide Cure, and the premise is that when we value our life the way Jesus does, it removes our desire to take it. It removes our desire to end it. And I can't speak for everybody, but I do feel like I can speak uniquely to this because I have like not only have I felt like ending my life, I actually tried to do it and it didn't work.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was kind of like, wow, like I can't even do that right. You know, like talk
Yeah.
about like heaping failure on top of failure.
Right.
But obviously, I can say thank God now that that didn't work. And, you
And
know,
obviously it didn't because God had a calling for you.
exactly. So this could be part of it. Like obviously I don't know all of his designs or anything, but um I can definitely see where he's making good out of it, and making good out of it has even looked like being able to walk with other people through um you know like really deep depression, all the way through like suicidal ideation, or like after people have also attempted, and just being able to sit with them in a different way,
Yeah.
as someone that's actually like experienced it, um, someone that doesn't like shame them for feeling that way, um, but someone that can literally say like it gets better, you know, um, which is crazy to me because like you don't know what you don't know. Um, but that's the beautiful thing about faith, is when you have faith, um, you can trust things you can't see, you know. So, it's being able to like meet people where they're at, hopefully before they get there. And I'm not saying like this cancels out or takes the place of any like resources that are available. NAMI is
Course.
a great one.
Yeah.
They share a lot of like resources, and um, equip people that not only struggle with mental illness, but maybe know somebody, So I just want to throw that out there. But
But this kind of
um,
meets people maybe where they're at as well. Because sometimes people aren't ready to reach out. They're
yeah,
still, and so having a book in your hand that you can read quietly at home or wherever you're at, I think makes a huge difference for a lot of people.
yeah. And I think also where, because I've had some beta readers. Unfortunately, one of my friends that read it, her niece committed suicide recently.
Yeah.
Um, and even but she was like, I'm gonna go back and read it again, because maybe for someone that isn't struggling with it, you don't know how it feels, and the person that's struggling may not even have the words to articulate it, or they don't want to,
Yeah.
so um really what the book is, I think, again, as someone that struggles with pride, like I've been a writer my whole life, and I've always like wanted to be published, and I've always wanted to see my name on something, but that's really not even how this book came about.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like an outpouring, and really I I just see it as an offering, I share
Absolutely.
vulnerably about stuff that I struggled with, and also just how God met me, you know, um in his goodness. And that's that's all I want it to be, is just an offering, to maybe reach out a hand to someone that's struggling, or have someone that like is like empower someone to be able to help someone that's struggling,
Yeah.
that's really the heart
Absolutely.
behind it.
Yeah. And and that's something that I struggled with when I was younger. And you probably can relate to this. It's like when you're going through those thoughts, you aren't in that position yet to maybe reach out, but you need something to reach in. And I feel
Yeah,
like that's what your book is doing
yeah,
is, because you might not be ready to call,
yeah,
8988
yeah,
or anything like that, or even talk to a friend.
mhm,
But you have those thoughts in your head, and you need something to come in. And
yeah.
I think this is a great resource for that.
And I think also, like, when you're there, you only get there because what the enemy feeds you looks like it makes sense, so reaching out doesn't make sense because like for X, Y, and Z, whatever the reason is, but it I think isolation really breeds like these thoughts. And it's just that feeling of like slowly being cut off, not just from other people or possibilities, but just like all the options. Like it. it's never the best option. It's usually the option that's left,
Yeah,
and that's when it makes sense. So I'm really hoping that this kind of meets people there. And it's like, this is maybe the one thing that you haven't considered. And not like people with faith don't struggle with this because I think it's across the board,
it is.
unfortunately,
I
like,
pastors, a lot of pastors
yeah,
commit suicide.
yeah.
So,
Um,
and
but
it's you're absolutely correct. It's like a quiet mind is like the devil's playground.
yeah.
So if your mind is not focused on where it should be,
Mm.
you can be taken out pretty quickly.
Yeah. And I think like I talk about like it's not like I'm like, oh well, here's a Bible verse to throw at this thought or whatever, but I really like dig deep into like this is what spiritual warfare feels like and this is how you fight. Um because again, being on the other side of it, like it's not, I hate to say it, but it's not like I haven't contemplated it since coming to faith. And I think even being able to say that kind of like removes a lot of um just, the rainbows and sunshine that I think a lot of people picture,
Yeah,
when it comes to Christianity. It's like Jesus, Jesus isn't just for the mountaintops, you
right.
know, he's for
He
the
is
valley.
definitely not just for the mountaintops. I
Um,
find he finds us most when we're in our valleys.
yeah, exactly. And so it's just uniquely like again, it's just I hope it's just a resource, to be able to be like, hey, here's how scripture speaks to these thoughts that drive you to consider this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And here's a challenge that I have, for you, for myself, and then obviously for the people listening as well, is if you notice that someone is feeling low, and I'll just use that term, low, because we don't necessarily know where they're at in that
Right.
category. And I've walked that road too myself.
Yeah.
So I've experienced what you're talking about too. But my challenge is, instead of being like, oh, you got this, have faith, because basically, as soon as you catch wind that they're struggling, they don't have it,
Yeah.
and they're very quietly saying that they don't have it.
Yeah.
They're not holding it together.
Yeah.
They're not just praying and staying focused. They're not. So I think my challenge for all of us is, if you encounter someone like that, instead of say pray about it or I'll pray over you,
Mhm.
stop and pray right then.
Yeah.
Put your hand on their shoulder and pray over them. Or,
Yeah.
or if they won't pray with you, you stop what you're doing and you pray for them right then. It doesn't have to be out loud. It
Yeah.
can be a quiet plea to God. But
Yeah.
we always say, "Oh, I'm going to pray over you." But
Mhm.
do you really? You know what I mean? Like, and we're human. We get
Yeah.
on with our day. But I'm encouraging all of us to just pause and
Yeah.
and handle it right then.
Yeah.
Take it to God.
And that's just a note on prayer in general, I think. And I love that you said that because so what I think now looking back at it, what wrecked me about worship on that first night was it wasn't just the music, it was actually like experiencing the presence of God. But there's two things that convinced me that God was real, even though I had like accepted him technically.
Mhm.
The first was worship, the second was prayer.
Yeah.
Because to hear someone pray and say things out loud that you've only told to God is like, it's like, on a Sunday when it's like God told the pastor all your business, you know what I mean?
Right?
On a much more intimate level,
Yeah.
and in real time, so yeah, like for the love of all things, if you haven't already, or even if you have, like never stop praying, never stop asking for prayer, never stop praying over people. Like the number of times that I've missed an opportunity in real life and I just like again, I couldn't sit with it. Like I just had that conviction and then I just voice memo them later. I'm like, hey, so like I should have prayed earlier and I didn't. So we're gonna pray right now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, it's so good. And it's that urgency. And
Yeah,
the Bible says pray without ceasing. And it's not that we're just eyes closed and on our knees praying. It's as we go through our day and we encounter people and we encounter things, you pray, you talk to God through your day. And it's not even about, you know, God, give me this or give me that. It's having that relationship with God, like, okay, God, what are we doing right now? How are we handling this?
yeah,
Like, show me the steps, show
yeah,
me your footsteps because I want to follow your path,
yeah,
and so it's like having those conversations with God through the day. And
yeah,
prayer is really just conversation with God,
yeah,
which is huge. But
and it,
taking people to the feet of Jesus, I think that's where we need to be.
yeah. I I think it's just it's they say this is a relational, like, I don't even want to say religion, but it's just knowing Jesus, it's a relationship,
Yeah.
like it's not a set of like it's not just a set of rules and commands he asks you to follow, it's a relationship. So, imagine like if you're dating someone but you only see each other on Sunday, or you only talk to each other once a day or whatever the case is, like that's fine, but what kind of relationship would that be,
Right.
versus like, my husband, so as an example, my husband, he's coming around, praise God, but despises flying, hates it. He
Uh-huh.
also has the craziest things that happen. Hey, hey, stop. He has the craziest things that happen when he's on a plane. So I also had to tell him, like, I think it's you. Like, I think you're the problem because this stuff never happens when I fly without you. Um, but anytime I go somewhere, I am so like excited and enamored with like all these things that I'm seeing. But at the same time, all I can think about is how much I want to tell him and how much I want him to see it and how much like I wish he was there with me. But like that's the best thing about Jesus is he is. So it's like if you
Yeah.
can have that relationship with him when you're like, man, Jesus, like, did you see I just got that like parking spot and there was no parking? Like I don't
Yeah.
care. Maybe he didn't organize it, but at the same thing, it's like, you know what? Like that really made my day, so thank you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that
Absolutely. Yeah, because if you're married and you only talk to them on Sundays, your marriage is probably not going to last. Yeah.
well, you're just not going to get the full experience. You're going to leave a lot on the table,
Yeah.
and you're not going to get to know what the other person thinks about you either if you're not talking to them.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And you memorize their voice. You learn their voice in that communication.
Yep.
And I think
Yeah.
that's pretty significant is because people are like, well, I don't know what God's voice sounds like. But if you talk to him often enough, you do. And there's this thing I saw a long time ago. It said, when I get to heaven, I want God to turn around and be like, there she is. I heard your voice. I know your voice.
Yeah.
Because I talk to God all the time and I want him to know me. But I also, when I get to heaven, like, I don't want to be like, turn from me. I never knew you. I want it to be
Yep.
like, I know you.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we need to be. I think that's great. And I think that does help. It doesn't necessarily take away all the negative feelings because I walked that journey for 9 years. I finally was released from any
Oh
suicidal thoughts after 9 years.
my gosh.
And
Thank
it was tough. Every day I woke up and I had to overcome that every single day. And about 2 years ago, finally, God and me worked through it and I was able to get released from it. And I haven't had those thoughts since.
yeah.
But it's huge. It weighs you down and you go and even in the quiet you're still functioning and you're still living and you're doing all the things but you're just you your head is just reeling and you're like,
Yeah.
well, if I do it this way or if I do that, or who's going to be affected, or like it's
Yeah.
just the thoughts that go through your head. And it's like, you know what, for one, the one thing I found helped
Hey,
me was just knowing,
stop.
oh, dog. No,
Yeah, not you.
yeah, no, I get it. But yeah, no, the one thing that helped me was just knowing like if I were to do it, somebody was gonna have to find me, and then my kids were gonna have to live without me.
Yeah.
And knowing how close I am with my kids, you know. And so it's like you have to find that one thing that keeps you. And it's not necessarily like, oh, just don't do it. It's like you have to find that one thing to cling to when you're going through it. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the only, I think God would have been, I know God would have been the only thing that would have stopped me the first time around.
Hmm.
Um, because I was so convinced that like I was doing everybody a favor.
Yeah.
Um, and I didn't like if you it wasn't just looking at my life immediately. It was looking at my past. Like everything I had been through, like just the abuse, the manipulation, all of that stuff. I was like, okay, well, look at my track record, you know. Like that's what I would have told God if he challenged me then and if I knew him, I'd be like, God, like let's be real. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I
Right.
hate to say it, but sometimes like it does seem logical and it does seem like it makes the most sense and it does seem like, it's n- not just the only option, but it seems like the best option. And the only time that stops being true is when you have faith
Yeah.
and you have a relationship with a God that says like, you're not done. Like
Yeah.
I'm not done with you. You know,
Exactly.
this is not like, and you have to know that better things are coming.
Yeah. And you have to cling to it, and you have to just, it's almost like holding on to that one little string just to get
Yeah.
you through your day.
Yeah.
But you just have to you have to keep going because it doesn't remove the issues, it just transfers them to somebody else.
Yeah.
So the sadness, the depression, stuff like that, well then you not being there does transfer to somebody
Yeah.
else.
It does.
So yeah. Good. Well, I'm glad. Thank you for sharing with me.
Yeah.
I think this is a huge topic of discussion. Not a lot of people are willing to talk about, but I think a lot of people have been touched by suicide, and have experienced it some way in their life, whether it be someone that they love or even their own thoughts or attempts or whatever. I think that it affects way more people than we realize.
Yeah.
And
And
because you see everybody out there and everyone's doing great,
yeah. Well,
but
but and that's the part you can't know is you can't know like whose heart is going to be broken, you know?
yeah,
Um, because every time it happens, it's like everyone that cares about them comes out of the woodwork. And I mean that could be a point of contention too, is like, okay, well, where were all these people when I was alive? And it's like,
yeah,
where were you? You know?
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
were
Yep,
you like not I don't mean that in a way of like condemnation or shame, but it's like, were you willing to accept like the love and affection of people around you? You know?
absolutely.
Like, were
Yeah.
you willing to receive the fact that people cared about you? Because like I'm gonna guess you didn't.
Yeah, probably not. And you weren't accepting it. You weren't receiving.
Yeah.
You were blocking it.
Yeah.
They don't really love me. They don't really care about me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. And at the end of the video, I'll share your book, where it can be found. And you have published it, yes or no? Not
No,
yet.
it should be coming out later this year.
Okay,
So
perfect.
I do
All
have a
right.
website though, and I'll be updating that and like sharing things on that.
Awesome. And so as we get closer, I'll probably get you on here again and we'll
Oh, that would be cool. I would love
yeah,
that.
once it's published, and we'll get it all out there. So, but
That
I'll put the link on so people can kind of do you have a way that they can maybe sign up for notifications so that when it's released? Okay, perfect. Yay. Okay, awesome. And then I'm also going to put some suicide information at the end of the video as well. So,
that'd be great. Yeah.
well, thank you, Sam, for coming on. It's been my pleasure to get to know you, and thank you for sharing this conversation. I think that this touched me a little bit more than I thought it would.
Mm.
This was great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, and if
Good.
anybody that's out there, just love on each other, be kind, be
Yeah.
kind. The world's rough, be kind.
Yeah. You don't know what
Yeah.
someone's going through.
Yep. Exactly. You have no idea what people are going through. So,
Yeah.
all right, my friend, well, have a great day. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you next time.